Hello, and welcome to Misplaced Musings, your inconsistent podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Cowan. I'm joined by
Shannon.
And today we're going to be doing part one of our Knights of the Old Republic game club.
Woo! We're Jedi. We're magical space wizards.
I mean, you're more like a Sith.
But I'm not. I am Jedi as fuck in this playthrough.
Okay, but I just meant in general.
I'm sorry that I don't like being a cop, Brian.
Oh my god. So, I guess we should start with a little background and history. I'm not sure how much we have to explain this game, but you can go ahead and give a brief description if you want for anyone who hasn't heard about this 20-year-old game at this point.
Knights of the Old Republic, or Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, is a video game created by Bioware. Some people may have heard of them. They've made things like Dragon Age and Mass Effect. And so they're fairly well known.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yes. And so they decided, hey, we're pretty young at the time. This was 2003, I believe.
Yeah, and they were known primarily before that for their more fantasy style games like Neverwinter Nights, right?
Yeah, and Baldur's Gate was the big one.
Yeah. Icewind Dale and all those things.
Mm-hmm. And so then what they did was they're like, let's take the Star Wars IP, make probably, honestly, one of the better plots for Star Wars, period, and make an RPG using D&D 2.0 as the base. Or was it Advanced D&D? I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was Advanced D&D, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, a form of D&D.
Anything before, 3rd edition is all archaic nonsense. So
right. It might have even been a mix of 3rd and 2, honestly. But they take D&D, they put it in a Star Wars world. Boom, you've got a Bioware RPG. And if you've played any Bioware RPG, you'll know the way that the game is set up, which is going to be prologue, one planet in this case, or like one dungeon or one plot line. You're then going to go through 2 to 4 different plot missions that you could do in any order. In between that, either a mission 2 or mission 3 out of 4, you're going to get an emergency mission. Then you're going to finish those, and then you're going to go into endgame. And that's how Bioware does absolutely every RPG they've ever made.
Yeah, I can't disagree. And yeah, this one, when you're playing it definitely just feels like if you haven't played these older ones, this will feel like an ancestor to Mass Effect. It's like a rougher, clunkier Mass Effect.
Actually, something that I compare it more to with the battle system, because Mass Effect was like a shooter. This feels a lot like Xenoblade Chronicles, like an old Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah. Because that game, okay, you have auto attacks, and then you tap buttons to do different attacks. And
yeah, it's kind of like MMO style, like turn-based auto attacks type stuff. Which, and personal history wise, I have not actually played KotOR 1 before this. I think I might have started it at one point, but I didn't get very far. I started with 2, which is made by Obsidian, and most people consider inferior. But since I started with it, I liked it, and I played through that but this is my first time going back to number one.
Oh, I actually thought you've completed one. I didn't realize you've never beaten it.
Nope, nope. I played through two.
Okay, two is actually very good, especially now that in the Steam Workshop you can download the fan patch that fixes the game and puts
I,
in all of the stuff that was supposed to be in it.
I was gonna say, I know it's considered inferior, and a lot of the complaints were around technical issues and bugs. Which, hey, it's an Obsidian game, so
That's true. They're known for having games that are considered very good or enjoyable that are a mess and difficult to play.
I mean, New Vegas was probably the buggiest game I've ever had a great time with.
New Vegas was pretty rough. The only game that closed my PlayStation down more was Skyrim, actually.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
If you're on PlayStation, I
I
have
was.
no
Yes.
argument. But yeah, and this game, I guess it's maybe sort of, well, I would say it's relevant because one, there's been a long rumored. I guess it's not rumored. There was a remake in the works, but there's some question marks around that because of some behind the scene issues. So
Didn't the
don't know if
company get bought out? Isn't that what happened?
yeah, Embracer Group bought them, and I think there was something about like they weren't happy with the progress of the build, and it was going to have to be started over or something. I might be making that up, but there are question marks around it at this point whether or not we'll actually get it. And honestly, I the pedigree of the dev that was remaking it and the IP and everything, I wouldn't have high hopes for it anyway. The other piece of news though that would make this relevant is the fact that in just a few days the Jedi Survivor comes out, so it is a Star Wars time of year.
Yeah, and then May is happening soon.
Oh yeah, May.
May the 4th be with you, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Star Wars all around. Fun fact about KotOR, it's the only thing from the expanded universe that's still canon, if I remember.
So it's parts of it are canon. Parts of it are canon. Parts of it have been made not canon by some of the newer stuff, but parts of it like it's a weird gray area because there are things from it that have been brought forward, but there are things in the new canon, like the way lightsabers work and some of the history of the Jedi Order and the Sith Order and stuff that's kind of conflicts with stuff going on in KOTOR.
Yeah,
But
what makes it fun is SWOTOR, which is the MMO, Star Wars Old Republic. It it also pulls from KOTOR, and that's also considered fully canon. So the cannons are running around slamming into each other,
yeah,
screeching.
it's one of those things where Star Trek has always been kind of known for having slightly inconsistent canon, but Star Wars has always been sort of like decent, but now it's starting to run into some issues. But I know this is a favorite game, and I do know that you know people in charge have wanted to make parts of it canon. Like Darth Revan was supposed to show up in Clone Wars, I think, but I think he got replaced by Darth Bane.
Yeah, they
And like,
brought Bane back, and I'm glad because they're going to use the wrong Revan.
yeah, and some. Oh, are we saying? You know what? We'll do that later. But and I think some of the planets and stuff like that show up in KOTOR have been made canon by some of the animated stuff as well.
Yeah. So before we dig too into the giant syrupy hole that is Star Wars canon lore, let's pull ourselves out. And before
Actually,
we
talk about the game.
yeah, so before we get into that, I did want to talk about what we're playing a little bit for the week because
I'll go first since it's always going to be considerably shorter than yours.
sounds good.
I have been playing Elden Ring again because I'm stupid. No, I'm kidding. I wanted to play through it again. Before the DLC drops, and then I've been playing that Star Rail game. that what is it? Honkai.
Uh it's Honkai Star Rail, I think.
Yeah, Hongai Star Rail, the mobile and PC gacha game from the creators of Genshin Impact.
Ooh, Hoyoverse. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. You know, it high production values. It looks very pretty, and it's turn based, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but I'm only like an hour or so into it, so I can't say much about how bad the monetization is in it yet. But the gameplay itself's fun.
Yeah, I also have been playing a little bit of that.
Have you?
Yeah,
Well, I know how you feel about mobile games and gacha games. So what do you have to say?
it's very pretty. I can't argue the production value. It looks good. It sounds good. I think the writing is ass,
I mean, the
but
story is just impossible to follow for me because it kind of it starts in a weird way and it has like a self-insert character, but it doesn't really utilize them to tell you what the hell's going on very well.
yeah, because they give him amnesia and you're totally confused on what's happening, even though you've been brought to life by this group and there's all this stuff going on. But the thing that irritated me was we immediately got a fourth wall breaking. Oh well, that's obviously the last boss type comment, and I hate that shit. I hate it so much, and
But man, it's obviously the last
it
boss.
made me groan and
You just don't
just
like wit.
no. Wit's fine. It's not. I don't like things that try to be wit and fail.
See, I'm that annoying quippy guy who like I'd be that kind of guy if me and friends are walking down the street and there's just some crazy looking guy at the end of the street. I'd be like,
That's
"Hey man,
obviously a boss character. Yeah.
that's obviously a boss character, yeah." And no one would laugh but me.
There's a reason for that. It's because that joke's not good, Brian. Up,
Rude.
but no. That aside, it's serviceable. The plot's serviceable. It's pushing forward, makes it very easy to buy characters. It's obvious that the game is all about making pretty people your characters to control because you want to control pretty people, and that's the big part of Hoyoverse stuff that I don't like is the exploitation feels gross. Like, not only does it want you to buy a bunch of stuff, it's specifically trying to like appeal to people by being,
Sexy.
yeah, look at this sexy person or look at this girl that obviously looks 12, and I'm just like, I don't like any of this, please stop.
Okay, the younger looking characters aside, the rest of it doesn't bother me that much. I guess because I expect it wears it on its sleeve. Like whenever it has some very questionable camera angles when it's doing cutscenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I'm just like, whatever. This is you know what you're getting. It's a pervy waifu game, but I guess one thing I don't like as much is when I play a lot of gacha games. Like I play a lot of gacha games,
Yeah.
and I tend to like the gacha element a lot. Like I like getting new stuff, and the thing in these games like Genshin Impact and stuff is because they have kind of a higher production value and they're fully animated in 3D and all that. They tend to have fewer units to collect
Yeah.
than other games, so that's less appealing to me because I'm just like, ooh, there's only like 30 characters, yay, you know.
And that
To
also
me,
means
I'm
the
like, why is that
pools,
even a gacha?
right?
Like,
It means the pools are more expensive too, usually.
exactly.
Mhm.
Like, if there's only like 30 playable characters, I'm like, why even make the character aspect a gacha? Like, do something, make the equipment the gacha part. Just give me the 30 characters.
Yeah, I like how Record Keeper did that, actually.
Yeah,
Rest in peace.
you killed it.
I
But
did.
this is not the Star Rail podcast, or I mean, it could be Misplaced Train.
Misplaced Train. Okay, so I'll get to what I was playing then.
Yeah.
I've been playing a couple little indie games. One is Volcano Princess, which plays apparently similarly to Princess Maker, which is an old, I don't know if I'd call it an RPG, an old game where you raise a princess.
So in Japan, I think they tend to call those life simulation games,
Life sim. Okay, that makes sense.
or it's definitely simulation.
Yeah, something sim like. And Volcano Princess is that, and it's not creepy. You don't have to marry her off to have kids or whatever, which is great. It's a fun little story. It's mystical. You're There's a lot of fun little stuff that they do with like outside lore things that you can engage with or can totally ignore because You're just a dude raising a daughter. You don't have to get involved with hunting the owl queen, or you don't have to get involved with any politics. You can just live your life on a farm doing whatever. It's pretty cool. Or you can get involved. My first playthrough, my daughter was a socialite, broke the hearts of everybody, became
Rude.
a never had a job, just went from sugar mama to sugar mama.
So she's terrible, is what you're telling me.
She was very nice the whole time, apparently. But the second time, she was a master artist. She did sculpting. She sculpted.
This game is definitely intriguing.
Yeah, this time I'm a knight, and the cool thing is you have different mechanics. So if you go like strength, you actually play through a roguelite where it's got a system that's kind of like Slay the Spire, where you pick a direction and go up a tower type deal. And you make your way to the end and fight the boss of the level. And you can completely ignore that mechanic if you want to go charisma or intelligence, or you can go all in with strength and do that mechanic and go that way. And or you can just do social stuff, like social sim stuff, get people to care to like you, make a lot of money, have different jobs. That's the charisma option. Or you can study a lot of different things with intelligence and make potions and
See,
do
that's why
horseback riding.
I tend to like that simulation genre, the broad simulation genre.
Yeah.
We get I mean, it's cool now that more newer games are being made in that, but as far as like older games in that genre, like Princess Maker and whatnot, we get a fraction of those games from Japan. Most of them stay over there.
Yeah.
But that genre tends to have aspects from so many other types of games. Like they're like a weird composite game. So I tend to like them because there's not really any other type of genre like that.
Yeah, no, it's what makes it fun to me, and I haven't been as into them lately, but you can totally get into a groove that's just relaxing, where you just know exactly where to click, and you just go boop 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 boop. It's nice. And the other big game that I've been playing, well, today, because it came out today, or it came out yesterday, was Cassette Beasts, which is a Monster Tamer game, Monster Tamer style, that is it's an indie title, and you collect cassettes which have monsters like ingrained in them, and you put it in your cassette player, and it turns you into the beast, and that's the whole gimmick. And when you capture, quote unquote, all you're doing is recording the monster's essence into a tape, and then the monster runs off, and you have them, and you can turn into them with the tape. And a really cool mechanic is as you get closer to your comrades, you build up their stats, and once you get to a certain level, you can fuse with them and making a mixtape monster, which is mixing two monsters together to make one really powerful one. And it's just a fun mechanic. It's a cool little game. It's pretty. It's got good pixel art. It does that voxel on the world map thing though, that I'm not a huge fan of, because
You don't like voxels?
I don't think
God.
they look very good. I was never a Minecraft kitty. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, they look a certain way. It's kind of like it's very subjective because it's kind of like how some people really like early 3D graphics like PS1 and you know that generation even
Yeah,
before then.
N64 one. Yeah.
They're like, I love this stuff. I mean, I'm one of those people. I love this stuff. It's beautiful. But then other people were like, that looks like ass. I do not understand why you like that at all.
Yes. I I think it's one of those things. But the game is great. I'm pretty early, so I'm not going to say a lot about it. Music is good. The color palette choice is great. The monster designs have been really fun. A lot of times, the issue with other Monster Tamer games besides Pokemon and Digimon are, well, the monster designs kind of suck. They try to be too cutesy and or too cool, quote unquote. But this has a good mix, in my opinion. One of them is a hermit crab with a traffic cone on its back, and I love that. It's great.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's
Also, that'd be a pretty big hermit crab.
yeah, it is. Well, that's why it's a monster and not just a regular hermit crab.
Rude.
That's rude to call it a monster because it's big. True. So that's what I've been playing. I just wanted to get that out there because I wanted to talk about Volcano Princess and Cassette Beast and get the names out a little bit, since I love indie games and I want everybody to play indie games and stop buying AAA games because they suck.
Hey, I get it. I mean,
Uh,
I wanted to let people know about Elden Ring because
yeah, the
in
indie title.
April of 2023, I'm sure no one's heard of that game.
Yeah, just a small little indie game from Japan. Nobody knows about it. So that being said, we
Yeah, let's
have
get into the game.
yeah, we talked about it. So let's go to a galaxy far, far away, long ago.
All right, so yeah, KotOR, Knights of the Old Republic. So when wait, first off, what platform did you play this on?
I made a mistake. I played it on Switch.
I mean, I made a weird choice too and played it on Android. So
So you might have
uh,
had as many bugs because mine is hard locked on me 4 times and soft locked 7.
I've actually run into zero bugs.
That's
It
awesome. I'm really
just
happy for you,
weird,
actually.
just weird control idiosyncrasies, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, are you using any mods or patches or anything?
No, it's not. I'm not, since it's on the Switch, and it has the really funny problem where it counts all of my time in sleep mode.
Huh.
So,
So you've played a billion hours?
so it says I've been playing for like 112 when I've been playing for like 4.
Rude.
Yeah,
So I guess we can just kind of run over how it starts for those who
yeah.
have played this game.
So,
So,
oh,
oh yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I actually wanted to start before we got into the plot and everything. What did you go with for your build? What was your starting class?
So, Scout, and
Okay.
so I started. And for those who are listening, the character creation in this game is kind of ass by today's standards. And I say that because my character looks like a vaguely Chinese bald man. Um, because there's, it's not like a modern game where you can, fine tune your character's appearance. No, it's the older type of character creation where it's like, okay, you picked a guy. Here are the 9 different faces you can choose. That's what you get. You can't change the faces. Those are your faces.
Mhm.
And the only bald one is a Chinese looking man with a kind of a problematic stereotypical like Chinese villain mustache.
Oh.
So that's what Brian in in the Star Wars universe looks like apparently.
Mm.
But no, and you get what is it? 3 different classes you can choose to start out, and it's Soldier, Scout, and what was the other one?
Scoundrel.
Scoundrel, right? So you're Han Solo.
Yeah, it's basically warrior, ranger, or rogue.
Right, exactly. And you and like you had previously said, it's older Dungeons and Dragons style building. So you have your attributes, your what is it? Strength, dexterity, constitution,
Mhm. Intelligence, wisdom.
wisdom, intelligence, charisma, and you get so many points to allocate to them. You get feats and skills. Pretty straightforward. You used a kind of a pre-made build type thing, right? Like an
Yes.
optimized.
So this is like my third time playing. So I'm like, I'm gonna do something kind of silly. I started scout, and in these games you can choose to not level. So what I did,
We're gonna get to this, but
yeah,
after playing through it, I do not know how you did this to yourself. This sounds awful.
I I did a lot of controlling the Wookiee, actually.
Awful.
So but because of that, the tutorial makes you level up once. So I leveled once, and then I kept all of my level ups until we get to a specific point, which is the end of where we played through for this playthrough. And then I leveled up all at once, and I'll go into that once we get there. But starting off, you select your class, and then you wake up.
On the what's the name of that ship?
It's the it's not the Evan Hawk, because that's the one you get later.
No, it's the bigger one, the Republic. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but the design is no longer like that ship is no longer canon, but they borrowed that design for newer cannon ships. Like it looks a lot like new ships like the Starhawk,
Oh, they.
which it kind of like a ship with a big sideways hammerhead.
Oh, the Endar Spire.
Yeah, there we go. The Endar Spire. So yeah, you wake up from your sleep on the Endar Spire, and because it's under attack, and your buddy in your quarters, your other soldier guy with a Duke Nukem haircut.
Trask.
Yeah, Trask. He's like, "Hey man, wake up! We're under attack. We need to save the Jedi Bastila."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you're under attack by the Sith. And for people who don't know their Star Wars history, in the movies, you know, you only ever see like the Sith is like Palpatine or Vader, but in the former history of the Star Wars universe, the Sith had like empires with armies of, you know, non-Force users. So when they say Sith in this game, they just mean this entire empire.
Yeah, the Sith Empire
Yeah, it'd
is
be like if the
what it's called.
Galactic Empire had just been like, we're the Sith.
Yes, and this was back when there were a whole bunch of Sith or Dark Jedi around, and not just two. So that's
And and I guess the setup, I guess we should do the pregame setup a little bit. This takes place like what is it, like 5 years, a few years after this conflict in the Star Wars universe called the Mandalorian Wars, which you know, everybody now knows what the Mandalorians were, because it's very popular. But this in this version of Star Wars history, you know, there was this big conflict, the Mandalorian Wars, where the Jedi and the Republic fought the Mandalorians, and that conflict plays a huge role in like the backstory and the events of this game.
yeah, the Mandalorian War was a big deal, and it's kind of the start of what happens because this all takes place like 4,000 years before the main Star
Before the Battle of
Wars.
Yavin.
Yeah. So what this was is the Mandalorian War happened. There's reasons why. We'll get into it more deeply because it actually gets revealed more as we play. But that happened, and the war ended because of two Jedi, Revan and Malik. Well, after that, they're like, well, man, we don't like how the Jedi do stuff. And then Sith happened. So then they became the Sith. And you hear this a little bit as you're going through the ship, and you hear about Revan and Malik as you play through. But you wake up, Jedi needs help. Expendable friend number one shows up and helps you.
Yeah, typical. As you said, Bioware has their tropes, and they will often introduce a very expendable character right at the beginning.
That shows you how to do stuff, but you can tell
Yeah,
that they're not going to join you because you can't take their equipment off or level them up at all.
yeah, it's either a mentor or a buddy, or
Yeah.
in Mass Effect they mixed it up and they had a subordinate who just was a super red shirt and ran off and died.
Didn't
No, I guess
even.
they killed the Spectre at the beginning too, so they did it to two characters in Mass
They
Effect.
doubled down. They put two
Yeah,
pieces of chicken and one piece of ham in the middle. Yeah. And and so you go through this, and it's a very effective tutorial. It just puts you through. It shows you how combat works, which is combat happens. I have it set to pause right when combat starts. You don't have to, but I always like to.
same.
And then, like Brian was saying before, it's like an MMO style. You run up, you auto attack, you select different options if you want while you're
the
playing.
the way that you select your options actually reminds me, oddly enough, of the airship battles in Skies of Arcadia, because you have a queue that you can queue like three
Yeah,
different actions in for like the next three turns, which and then they play out and you can queue. So you could be like, I want to attack, use a med pack, and then use an energy shield, or I want to attack
yeah,
3 times or whatever, which is how this airship battles in Skies of Arcadia worked. And so that and so it reminded me of that. I also immediately ran into my first issue with this game, which is probably just a modern issue because of the way I'm playing it. As I said, I'm playing it on Android, but on my Shield on my TV with my 8-bit Do controller.
hmm
When the button for action, like for opening things or examining things, seems to be contextual in that it changes in and out of like battle situations. So outside of battle, it's like the A button, but or the bottom button, but in battle, it's the left button.
Oh, that's not that way for the Switch. It's all the same button.
Confuses the shit out of me constantly because I'll go to open a door and I'm like, why isn't it opening? Why did I do something wrong? And then I'll hit the other button and it opens, and I'm like, this is stupid. And then I'll do the exact same thing like 5 seconds later. And I'll be honest, I haven't like looked into if there's a way to change that. It's just something I noticed. At first I thought it was a bug, but then I figured out that it was flipping every time that there were enemies nearby or I had just gotten out of combat or something.
Yeah, that sounds unique to Android because all it is I have to select it and then the button is the same, but on the bottom I use the D-pad to select different options. So,
Some of the other things that people would find interesting, versus newer games is and this is still true in newer games, but it's just something some people don't like. Loot in this game is, randomly generated based on a table probably. So sometimes when you'll kill enemies, they'll drop stuff and it'll be different. Same thing with like chests and boxes. There are some that are static, but most of it's random. And this isn't a bug, it's more of a limitation of the time. This game takes forever. It feels like forever to know that combat's over sometimes. Because there's certain actions you can't take when combat's happening.
Mhm.
And I'll kill everybody in the room, and then I'm like, go to use something in my inventory or go to change an equipment or something. It'll be like, you can't do that in combat. And I'm like, I'm not in combat. Everybody's dead. Like newer games, they've gotten better so that it's pretty instantaneous. It knows when you're in a fight and not in a fight. But
yeah, that's a problem, and I've run into multiple bugs, but I'm not going to go into that too deep into detail. Just know that sometimes it never takes me out of combat, which means I wasn't able to interact with NPCs.
oh, that sounds awful. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
a game of its time and
No,
of a
no, okay,
time.
no,
No,
I'm
no, no.
sorry.
Listen. Let me finish.
Oh,
It's a game
okay.
of its time, so it will have the limitations of the
Mhm.
technology available. Also, Bioware was a much different company. They hadn't quite nailed the way they would eventually turn things like into highly polished. I mean, Mass Effect also has problems, and so does Dragon Age. But like by the time they were releasing the sequels to those, they were a much higher production, much bigger studio.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to say is it has nothing to do with the limitations of the time. It absolutely nothing. There are games that came out in 2003 that did not randomly break because you pushed A twice instead of once.
Right. See,
All
and that's why
right.
I brought up the team itself. They maybe lacked the experience to because Morrowind and Baldur's Gate occasionally had bugs too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, and also I know that people like, well, it's because you're playing the
Not
Switch.
Morrowind. I said Morrowind. I meant Neverwinter Nights.
Oh, well, Morrowind also had a lot of problems, but that was
Right, but I
also
meant from
Bethesda.
Bioware. But
Yeah, but the thing is, I know a lot of people think it's because you're playing the Switch version. I played the PC version, and I've also played the Xbox version. I I'm telling you, it's just because the game's a giant buggy mess.
I mean, it's
And
it's so in the big. I don't like bringing this up, but in the big PC versus console argument that used to happen a lot and still happens occasionally, I tended to just bring up the fact that in general, games designed by the West for PC tended to have more bugs than console games or Japanese games. It was just when I was playing PC games from that era, there were exceptions, but a lot of times they were just buggy, but they were also worth the bugs because they were doing crazy cool stuff that I couldn't get anywhere else.
yeah, no, and that's the thing is, despite all the bugs, right? I sound kind of negative. And so far, I've loving my return to Knights of the Old Republic, right? So it's still a fun experience, and part of that experience is getting back to it. You're on the Endor Spire. You're going through. You learn that there's this Jedi Bastille or Bastel?
Basila?
Basila. It's Basila. Okay.
I'm gonna look. Keep going.
Yeah, it's probably Bastila. You're probably right.
Bastila,
And
yeah.
they
I
say her
Bastila,
name
yeah.
too.
Bastila Shan.
I don't know if it was
Shan?
Bastia.
Shan.
Shit.
We sound like we really know what we're talking about.
Well, the issue is knowing some Italian. I see the two L's, and I don't want to say Illa. I want to say like Bastia, but that's
Bastila, I believe, is
yeah, it's probably Bastila
Bastila Shan.
and not Bastia. Even though Bastia sounds
I mean,
nicer,
Star Wars names are freaking nonsense
they
anyway.
are nonsense. And so we're going through. We're trying to get her and leave, and as we're going through, we're learning how to fight. And then, oh no, it is a Sith. What will we do? Well, we throw Discount Duke Nukem away. That's what we do. He runs, he runs up and holds them back, and we run up to the escape pods. And as we run, we get talked to by my favorite character ever.
Really?
No, I fucking hate him. It's
You don't like Karth?
I don't like Karth. Karthanasi comes up, and
This
he's
game's Han Solo.
yeah, he's the Han Solo wannabe. And he's like, "Are you ready?" Blah blah blah, and you're like, "Okay, but we need to get her." And he's like, "Her pod's already gone. You need to go." And so you go with him. You get launched. We get to see a cool cutscene where Malik fucks up the whole ship. It's all dead now. It's gone. We lose Discount Duke Nukem. May he rest in peace. Discount Duke Nukem 2003. That's what's on
I
his tombstone.
One of my issues, real quick, when you get Karth in your party, and this happens later on with Bastila too, and a lot of games do this. I still have an issue with it narratively.
Mm-hmm.
Karth is mentioned to be like the best pilot in the Republic, and then like later on, Bastila calls him one of the Republic's best soldiers, and he's a level 1, which I get. Like you got to start at level 1 because it's an RPG and it's a game.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm like, is he though? Is he the one of the best soldiers in the Republic? Because if
He's
the
level
best
four,
soldiers in the
by the
Republic,
way. He
oh, okay.
starts at level
Well,
4.
even the best soldier in the Republic is level 4.
Yeah.
That's why they're losing to the Sith.
That's true. So we have the best pilot, and now we go to where we're going to talk about this entire episode,
Taurus,
which
which
is
is like
Taurus.
discount Coruscant.
No. See, it's not because yeah, it is. It's yeah. But
It's
anyway,
it's a city planet. What do they call though? There's a word for a planet that's all city. I forget,
I don't
but
know. I just know that
it's
like
it's Coruscant, but it's not. And I have a bone to pick about this entire planet, but I'll get to it at the end of the episode.
so.
But yeah, we have to evacuate the whatever spire, indoor spire.
Mhm.
Get on your escape pods, you jet, Bastila jets, and you crash into the city, right? And then you wake up because you were knocked unconscious by this whole thing, apparently.
Yeah, you were
And
knocked unconscious, and you wake up in a hotel or in an apartment.
apartment, yeah, Karth drags you to an apartment, not being noticed by like the Sith soldiers that are freaking everywhere.
Yeah, and even though your escape pod was down in the under level where they don't let people up without a thing, he still got up there with you somehow. And that's
Wait, was yours
actually
down there? Because there's one in the upper city too that's just
oh,
chilling there with
was there?
maintenance
That
guards
was you
around it.
then.
Yeah,
Never mind, that was you.
yeah.
You were in the
Either
upper
way, it was
city.
in like the middle of a promenade or whatever you want to call it, and I'm just like, there's no way that crashed there, and you just walked away. But he did. Um, I guess that's because he's one of the best soldiers in the Republic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, he drags you to an apartment, which is going to be your little base of operations for this section of the game. Even though I kind of hated going back to it, they give you the option to fast travel back to this apartment via the map screen, and the apartment has a workbench and a footlocker to store stuff in. I guess if you wanted to, but I didn't see a reason to. But it was kind of annoying when you'd be pretty far away from it and have to fast travel back to it and then run back to where you were.
Yes, the Switch version had an option to fast travel back to where you fast traveled from.
You know what? My game might as well. I just probably missed it. Now I feel like an idiot. I'm going to go check that after this and be mad if that was the case.
Well, that's why you read what the game tells you as you're playing instead of
But it
just
tells you
skipping
so
through.
much. This is a wordy game.
Yeah, it's an RPG. You read the words.
It's got a lot of systems. I like it. And I normally like this kind of game. I've just been distracted this week. But and I do like it. I did kind of just skip through some dialogue here or there though, because and like I did not play the freaking card game.
Yeah, fuck Pazak. I didn't do that shit either.
Hate Pizak. But yeah, so you wake up in this apartment and it's like, hey man, we got to find Bastila and we got to find a way to get off this Sith controlled planet.
Yeah, so you get started, and what would a good RPG be if not walking out of your room and then immediately seeing a mugging? And now is where the system comes into play. You have light side points, you have dark side points. This was early BioWare, so even more so than Mass Effect, doing the dark side choices is basically just being a murder hobo.
Except for the light side stuff, stupid. Like, okay, so the karma in this game pisses me off because, at least in my experience, some of the light side choices were boiled down to let me spend money or let me give up a reward.
Yeah,
And then yeah, I gave you a hard time for it, but the arena one,
yeah.
we'll get to that, but that pissed me off.
Yeah, no, I told you. So, like, a huge issue that I have with Star Wars morality is how they make the Jedi be. And I know I like to joke around, but it's legitimately just very 7-year old understanding of good and evil.
Well, the thing is, in the lore of the actual, if you look for the depth there, it's there. Like the Jedi are more dynamic than they appear. For instance, everybody's all like the Jedi are goody two shoes, and I'm like, watch the movies and count how many people the Jedi murder or cut down
Oh, no, it's not that they're
with their
goody two
light.
shoes, it's that they're
Like
lawful good psychopaths.
they're almost closer to lawful neutral, to be honest. I'm not sure I would call them lawful good. They're definitely lawful, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say that they're lawful good and the Sith are more like
Lawful
chaotic
evil.
neutral.
Yeah.
But then again, there's bunches of different versions of the Sith who have had different rules in the lore. So it's also like in this case, for instance, you walk out of your apartment and somebody's getting mugged by the Sith, but
Uh-huh.
not to be confused with an actual Sith. No, these are just the Sith, goons.
Brian, we don't need to make that differentiation every time. I
Oh, every time. No, but no, yeah, okay. So everybody, we'll tell you when it's not just a Sith goon.
Yes.
So yeah, dude's getting mugged. One of those weird fish face dudes from from Star Wars. One of the ones who says like Plunky, I think. And yeah, you can choose to save him or not to save him. I guess I have only played through this once, and I chose to save him. I don't know what the other outcome is.
They die.
Ah, sad. So yeah, you save him by murdering these police people, and then he's like, "Hey, thanks. I'll hide the bodies."
Hell yeah, hiding the bodies.
And that's the good path, is to kill the law enforcement and just give someone the thumbs up when they're like, "You're fine. I'll hide these corpses."
Well, because the law enforcement's not your law, so it's okay to attack them.
Just
And
saying. Um, but yeah, and then so you're immediately just let off the leash at that point. The game doesn't give you that much direction other than your big overarching goal of find Bastila and get off the planet.
yeah, there's not a lot going on as far as like direction, but there aren't a lot of choices you can make, so you usually figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I'm a completionist and I like to explore. So, I looked in every nook and cranny and tried to. There's several side quests you can engage in. You'll start very quickly to hear about a local crime lord named Davik, who's a jerk.
yes, there is Davik who is a jerk, but you also one of the earliest quests that you can get involved in is the arena, which is a fun one. And you're
Yeah, you go to the upper cantina, not the lower cantina,
yeah, the
but the
upper
upper,
cantina. Exactly.
because the high class people want to watch games of death.
Yes, so you go there and you can choose to go through the entire thing in one go, except
There's
for
like five
the
fights or something.
yeah, except for the final one, or you can go, leave, level up, and come back, which is the intended path. I'm Shannon, so I didn't do the intended path. So here's where I'm going to talk about my build. So the build,
I did 3 fights and then left and came back.
yeah, so the build is you stay at level 2. And then you do all of your stuff, and spoilers, I guess, but you eventually become a Jedi. Who would have guessed? And the way the game does that is when you become a Jedi, any levels that you did not use as your base class turn into Jedi levels, which means if you start at level 2, you get up to 7. And since I did everything on the starting planet, I got 7 levels. And that means 7 Jedi levels instead of just 1 Jedi level if you kept leveling up as you were playing through.
Which is an annoying way for them to handle that, but I'm glad you can take advantage of it.
Yes, and it gave me more force points, more force powers. Since I had 8 levels, that means or 7 levels, that means I had 7 powers to choose from instead of the 1. And you never get to go back and get those 7 force powers back. So I did that. So I was level 2 with a vibroblade.
You used a lot of grenades, didn't you?
Oh, buddy. I the first 2 are easy. And then the third one's a little tough. I what I did is there's a trick you can do when they have melee and range. You can run up and swing, and then they'll take time to pull out their melee, and then you run away, and then they pull out their range, and then you run back and just do that over and over. And
Fun.
I did that while running in circles, and then saving in the middle of combat, and then reloading if I missed. So I did this for all 5 for a 3, 4, and 5.
That sounds awful.
But I won. I threw
I also won.
so many grenades. So many.
The
So
the game does give you a lot of grenades from loot, to
yeah.
be fair. So
So I did that and I beat the arena and I got a ton of money and then I specced out my character with the best gear I could get. And it made running through until I got a stronger character to control easier. But still, it sucked. My main character was dead all the time. I was relying on some of the characters you got. I'm going to kind of speed through some of this because we don't want to take too much time going through all of the details. But
well,
you
let me just
go. Oh,
cover a couple things real quick. I was
sure.
just gonna say those some of those other quests in the area, which whenever I was criticizing the karma system, this is part of where that comes from. You'll run into a few people who are like, "Hey, I owe this guy Davik a lot of money, and he's gonna murder me. Help!" Or someone put a hit out on me. Help! And the dark side thing to do is to be like, "Nah, you're on your own." And the light side thing to do is be like, "Here's a large lump of some money to pay off your debts." And it's like I should have a third option where I don't know, I go deal with the person who you owe money or something where I just don't buy righteousness. I hate that. Cuz it's like, yeah, you're making a sacrifice, I guess, but there should be other ways to do it. It was annoying. So yeah, you'll run around and you'll also one of the first places you can run into is there's a droid shop which sells droid parts and has a little protocol droid that they're like, he's top of the line, but he's reserved for someone else. And you're like, oh, well, it's weird that there's a silhouette in my party screen that is shaped like him. I wonder if he might become part of my party.
No, no, you're supposed to buy the cheaper one.
Oh, I did. And then walked out the door and it exploded.
You did? Oh my god!
I did. There's 2 droids, and
How
one
would
you
you
can
fall
buy,
for
and
that?
one is. I wanted to see if there was some kind of reward. But yeah, there's 2 droids, one for sale, one's not. And if you buy the one that's for sale and try to leave the store, it just explodes at the door. And then I persuaded her to refund me my money.
Which is good.
But yeah, that's one thing. It does kind of. I've always thought games that do that silhouette thing where they kind of show you this is a silhouette of what your party members will look like because this isn't the only game that does that. It's kind of a weird way to do things because as soon as you run into, they have distinctive silhouettes. So as soon as you run into a character, you're like, they're that guy who's going to be in my party. Because you also pretty quickly run into another person who's going to be in your party, which is the freaking Mandalorian, because he also has a Duke Nukem haircut, just like your buddy who died on the Evan Spire.
Evan Spire, no, the Endor Spire.
Indoor Spire. Hey, I am tired. I had a migraine earlier today because I've been trying to cut back on my caffeine. So I'm sorry, my brain's only working at like 75% speed.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I'm trying to quit caffeine or at least cut back on it because I was drinking a lot and I'm gonna get like an enlarged heart or something. Anyway, so yeah, you'll run into a few perspective because you kind of wanted to speed this up a little. As you're exploring the city because that's pretty much all you can do. Again, it's not like a modern game where it'll be like here's a golden arrow telling you where to go.
Yeah, no, it's not going to do that. But Candorus, by the way, is the name of the
Yeah,
yeah, the
and
character.
you'll run into him. You'll also run into another bounty hunter who kills a couple people in the lower cantina, and that's foreshadowing a fight later.
Oh, that's a really fun one because he just starts counting down.
He does, and then if you try to talk to him, he starts counting at you.
Yeah, and if you don't leave before he finishes counting, he kills you. You cannot
Oh,
win that
just kills
fight.
you. Oh, okay, I was gonna say because if you could kill him there, that'd make the end of this section weird.
They purposely upped his stats to the point of where like you just can't. You're
All right,
gonna
makes
get
sense.
destroyed.
So in that lower cantina, you'll run into because you'll eventually get into the lower city by stealing the disguise of a
Yeah.
Sith.
So because the Sith have taken over Taris, which has been a relatively new thing, and you learn as you go through, they're keeping a hard lock on everything, and you have to go through a little series of quests to get everything you need to keep going down. So you go ahead and get a Sith outfit. You get into the lower area, which is where you can go into the lower cantina and
Which I
etc.
loved how you at least I don't know if there's multiple ways, but how I got the Sith outfit, you persuade a woman to invite you to a party, and then her and all her Sith buddies drink themselves unconscious, and you just steal their clothes.
Oh, I murdered a Sith. Yeah,
Oh wow, no, I went to a party and they were all like, "This is some strong alcohol," and then they all fell over.
yeah, no. So you can do it that way, or you can rescue somebody that's getting attacked by the Sith and murder them, which is what I did in one of the
I
hotel rooms.
guess I didn't run into that. I feel bad. I let someone die. I guess. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter, and I'll get to that later, and it pisses me off. So yeah, so you can get into the lower city, which is the seedy part, which most of the lower city is just open combat area with these gang members who will just attack you on sight. But yeah, you go to the cantina, you run into the Mandalorian, who you can tell from that party screen is going to be a party member, and then you run into Mission and what the hell's the Wookiee's name?
Zalbar or Big Z, as she likes to call
Big
him.
Z, yeah, Mission and Big Z. So a Twi'lek, is that how you say that right?
Twilight.
Yeah, a blue Twi'lek and a Wookiee pair who are they're a cute, fun pair. You run into them in the
Yeah,
cantina.
Mission's one of my favorite characters because she's just
I mean, I
so
used her as soon as I
funny.
got her. Like,
Her and the droid are your two best rogues. So
yeah, I tended to use her and either the Mandalorian or Karth. But so yeah, you pretty quickly find out that Bastila was taken by these swoop gangs, which I swear I thought a swoop was a bike. Like I've heard swoop bike, so I was thinking one of those little speeder
it
bikes.
is. It is a speeder bike
It
gang.
does not look like a speeder bike when you're racing it. Looks like a weird winged car thing.
Yeah, I just chalked that up to what they decided to make it look like.
I that race. Oh, so we'll get to that. But so you find out the swoop gangs have the Republic officer. They don't even know she's a Jedi, and they're gonna sell her as part of a prize for this swoop race. So I can just speak to the path I've been through because I've only played this once. But so go to one of the gangs who's better than the other gangs. They're the good gang, I guess.
The Becks, yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
Golden
X,
Becks or something, and then the other ones are
the black whatever's,
the
and then there's
yeah.
there's three gangs, right? I feel like I'm making that up
No,
now.
it's two gangs, and then there's that one that's part of the syndicate that controls all the underground.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And they tell you, hey, you can race for us, but you'll need to get into the bad guy's base and steal this prototype you know, accelerator, basically give your car nos because you won't possibly win without it. So that's your but you need that chick mission. That's where this all starts to come together. They're like, the only person who could get you in the base is that mission lady, but you have to go look for her in the further down.
And to do
And
that, you need to get paperwork from the Sith to let you go further down.
which, if you're talking to that guy, he's like, I will trade you paperwork for your uniform.
Yep, which is what you do. You trade it in. Now you're helping out the good gang, who has the leader that's blind, that tells you to go do the thing.
Which, I love how when you first talk to him, one of your options is like, "What's up with your crazy eyes, old man?" And I'm like, "That's rude."
It's very rude.
Like, yeah, he's blind and he has a bodyguard who's kind of overprotective.
Very angry. Wants to murder you right away. Wants to make
And they make
Mephisto.
these cool, compelling characters, right? They have cool. They seem like they have personalities and they have good voice actors and they look unique and they
Yeah,
have cool names. I'll get back to why that annoys me in a little bit.
because they don't join you, and it irritates you that they're short lived.
No, we'll get to that. So yeah, so then you have to go to the gang's base, and this is basically a dungeon.
Yeah, so you go through the
No,
base.
we didn't. Did I skip getting Beck or mission? I mean,
So you go down, and then you,
into the sewers. The sewers is the first dungeon. Sorry,
yeah, so you go down into the Undercity, and in the Undercity are not a bunch of undead. This is not World of Warcraft, but there are Rakaghuls,
mutants. There are
and
mutants.
they're basically vampires. I don't
And
even.
first, you run into the village of the outcasts, which
Yeah,
is your little underground village with your merchant and your.
yeah. You go into the village. You have your merchant, your person who says there's a prophecy, all this stuff going on. You learn that they're treated terribly. You get somebody that tries to hustle you for money right away. Since I was a good guy, I couldn't do what should have been done and punch them in the face,
I gave him
because
20 credits because that dude was desperate.
I ended up giving him money after yelling at him briefly.
Rude. But yeah, there's a
But
couple of quests in this area. As these types of games tend to progress. You get to a new area. There's
yeah, there's some quests to do.
non-combat zone with some NPCs who give you quests, and then there's a combat zone.
Oh, and here's an example of why I think morality systems in video games suck. So the rat gold, there's a serum. You can find the serum by exploring out in the area after you get mission and decide to go help her, which I'll get to in a second. You find the antidote. You can do one of two things. You can either give it to a doctor who's going to make an easy to distribute antidote to everybody that costs 1 credit, and then if you turn down all of his I'll give you money for it, you get more light side points because you're not allowed to receive
Which is what I
anything
did.
for doing
Yeah,
anything.
no rewards. You know,
Yeah, and so you do that. And or you can give it to a guy who works for one of the huts, and you get like 1,000 credits, which is a lot for that part of the game. And but you're obviously being evil and keeping people from getting, like, it's so clear cut that it's kind of funny. But
you don't like that. There's not more layers to it.
I mean, yeah, especially because, like, I don't mind it if you have good and evil systems, as long as it's like compelling to be evil. I played Sith the first 2 times I played KotOR, and a big part of that is because I tend to like Sith characters because they're usually more nuanced, because they don't want to make an actual evil character for you to be,
Yeah,
because people wouldn't do
Palpatine,
that.
the poster boy for nuanced, unlimited power.
Would you listen to the words coming out of my mouth? And because usually the Jedi side characters are very one note, we're going to save people, whereas the Sith characters tend to have a little bit more nuance to them because they can't make them completely evil, but they're also not good. So it's also part of why Canderous is way more interesting than Karth. And a big part of that is why I like the Sith writing. But I'm playing Jedi now, and at least that means Mission's not going to try and kill me, and that's great.
Karth is also kind of whiny. We haven't gone over this yet, but just like in every other Bioware RPG, each of your party members has a dialogue line and quest stuff. And unlike in the other games that I've played from them, this one will kind of interject in the middle of things and just be like, hey, Karth looks like he wants to talk to you. Or, Mission looks like she's upset. You should talk to her. And you can choose whether to talk to them or not, or you can be proactive and talk to them. But Karth's thing is and I know why, and it makes sense later, but Karth's thing is he doesn't trust you.
Well,
And
Car's thing is he doesn't trust anybody.
he's real whiny about it.
Yeah,
Like,
he's tried. They try to do like the brooding wisecracker, and the one thing I can give Karth is he shows people why this trope is garbage because there's almost no charm in his writing. And so I feel about him how I feel about every single one of these tropes. I don't like Han Solo. I don't like your Flynn Riders. I don't like anybody like this character at all.
okay, Han Solo is
And
awesome.
Han Solo sucks.
You
Anyway,
suck.
so these characters all are really like boring, shitty, and he shows it perfectly because he has none of the charm people like. So everyone's just like, man, he's like a whiny child. I'm like, yeah, just like Han Solo. Congratulations.
Hey,
And
charm is part of a character. Like, you can't just be like, hey, if you remove a defining element of a character, they're
well, my point
crap.
is, I don't think they're charming, but a lot of people do. And for some reason, Karth doesn't have that thing that makes people think they're charming. I don't think Han Solo is charming. I think he's an asshole.
I mean, he is. But yes, so Karth is whiny. His little
Yeah.
quest about, his little dialogue tree about, like, and you can tell him to shut up, but I'm trying to be a nice guy. So.
and and it does have early Bioware issues if I played a female character, and it does have early Bioware issues of being nice to somebody is flirting, and that is an irritation, and that really shows with Karth.
I feel like Karth would perceive a girl being nice to him as flirting.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, that's what I'm.
But
That's what I'm.
so that's an
About.
accurate interpretation.
Oh
Or
jeez, but might as well just go over the characters now. So you get Karth, and then you get Mission.
who we were about to actually get where we were in the
Yeah,
story.
and
You right before the sewers,
Mhm.
as you leave the outcast camp, you'll run into her, and she's like, "They took Big Z. They're gonna sell him into slavery."
yes, and so she's Twi'lek, whose brother you learn a lot about. We'll go more into him a little bit more detail, but her brother's a piece of shit. That's pretty
I
much
do
all
love
you need to know.
the difference in the way you can respond to characters. Like, it's like you were saying, so black and white, because with her, she'll tell you about her brother, and you can be like, yeah, I mean, I get it, family's family. Or you could just be like, your brother's garbage. you know?
And she obviously does not like that one.
Yeah, there's just no middle ground where you can be like, he sounded, complicated. He sounded like he didn't do, a lot of good things, but I get that he was your brother and you love him anyway. No, there's none of that. It's just, yeah, you always stick with family, or fuck that guy, he's garbage. Like,
Yeah, on one hand, I like not having subtlety because subtlety is for cowards. On the other hand, I want the not subtle options to make sense and be done well. And the
yeah,
issue is that they don't necessarily do that because I am tired of, well, both sides have a point. I don't care. I don't give a fuck that both sides have a point. But what I do want to see is the writing to make me care one way or another. And in some of these decisions, I just don't care. And that's the issue with making a system like this, where you do it to get points to make the gauge go up, so you can get better light side benefits and hit checks that you need to hit. So because of that gamification of it, it makes morality not interesting. It just makes it I'm going to make this decision no matter what mechanic, which people have talked this to death. So there's just nothing groundbreaking we're going to get into.
yeah,
But also, you have light side and dark side characters. Obviously, the more light side you are, the more they'll agree with you if they're light side. The more dark side, the more they won't, etc.
yeah. The more like
etc.
dark sidey they get, right? Or light
Only
side,
one or two characters can be
like
pushed
Bastila.
over. Yeah, like Vastila. Whereas, like for example, Mission, I'm pretty sure stays light side no matter what you do, or like those situations. So what's so you
We were
get
going over it, yeah. So you get
Mission,
Mission,
and she's the rogue. She's a scoundrel. Whereas Karth is a ranged warrior. He's got blasters. He's got heavy armor, etc.
and every
She
once in a while, your characters will talk to each other. Which you get your other party members will talk to each other. You get your first dose of that as soon as you get her, which is her and Karth bitching at each other
yes.
because he's like, "You're an immature little girl," and she's like, "I'm not a little girl. Fuck you."
Yeah, pretty much. But she's the stereotypical rogue. She has long range weapons. She can sneak. She has good
Disable
skills
trap,
but bad
which is
stats.
very important.
What was that?
Disable trap, which is very important.
And pick doors, which is also important.
Yeah, because running into mines in this game kind of sucked before I got her.
It did, especially if you don't have disable mine, which I didn't because I was only level 2.
Yeah, I didn't
Yes.
either because I just didn't have it, and so I was like, okay, cool. So I just run through it and tank the damage.
Yes, but as you go through the sewer, you get into the next character, which is Big Z, the Wookiee.
Which you had to rescue from Gamorreans. That's how you say it,
Gamorreans,
right?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, the green pig people from Star Wars. You'll recognize them from they were Jabba the Hutt's palace guards. And yeah, they were catching him to sell him into slavery, and you go into their sewer hideout and murder them all and rescue him.
Yeah, and so
And he's
you rescue Zalvar, and then you get your first strong party member, in my opinion.
I didn't even use him.
On Taurus, until you get Bastila, he's the best character that you can get.
I just I make my choices based on like uh what I like and stuff like that. So I was using like Mission and Karth, and then I replaced Karth with the Mandalorian once I got him.
Yeah, I mean, and also I just like Wookiees, so
Yeah, I was gonna say you like big furry people, so
I was
it
gonna
makes
use him anyway.
he's essentially I mean later on he'll probably be more dynamic, but early on a lot of these are like you said, Karth's basically a crappy version of Han Solo, and Big Z is basically Chewbacca. I mean, he uses a bowcaster. He's Chewbacca.
Well, he's not low. Like he doesn't behave in the
I
same
said
way.
later on he's gonna develop
No, I
differently,
mean
but it's
say
like
even early. Like he joins a life debt with you and actually like converses with you
you mean like
and
Chewbacca joined with Han Solo?
actually converses and you actually know what he's saying and he has like
That's
a
because you
code of
weirdly
honor and
know
stuff.
Wookiee, which is a thing where it's like apparently your character just knows tons of languages and everybody's surprised.
Hmm. And and so anyway, my team was Mission and Zalbar for a while until I got the mech. Then it was Zalbar and the mech. But
The mech, the
the
mech,
mech, the droid.
the battle mech. Yes, the
Sorry,
droid.
the droid. But so
So
you
we're going through the
and
sewers.
then you run into a Rancor,
Rancor,
which is
which was the only time I died.
oh, you actually fought him? That's funny.
I didn't read the little note that I picked up on
Oh
how you were
my
supposed to get
god!
past him. So I was just like, whatever.
Ryan, you say you're good at RPGs, but you sound like you're terrible.
I told you I was distracted, but
But so the best way, in my
I
opinion,
was
because
just
it's funny.
plowing through every other fight. So I was like, I'm gonna see how much damage I can do to him, and then I'll
Oh
decide whether or not I want to fight. He one hits you if you try to fight him. Like,
yeah. So there's a note that has an arm attached that you can read that says like, "Hey, the Rancor eats this if you put this thing on it,
yeah,
which is a scent."
synthetic odor, which of its main prey. So yeah, whatever you put in his food pile with that scent, he will eat.
So you just put grenades in there, and then he eats them and explodes and dies.
Yeah, I didn't know if different grenades do different things, but I just put a single like poison grenade, and yeah, he just
And
falls
yeah,
over
because
dead,
you're not supposed to fight him. You're supposed to.
which is crap. These that takes the agency. I feel like you should still be able to fight him. I feel like you should obviously be very, very strong, but like there should be a way, kind of like how they do the first enemy in every Souls game, where it's like this thing's supposed to kill you, but you could theoretically kill
No,
it.
get your modern shit out of my fucking video games. This was fun. I like that it made me do something that wasn't just fighting something, and then it
I
punished
like
me for
the
not listening.
option. I like the option.
Well, that's because you need to be disciplined. So,
So you get past the
yes.
Rancor,
Uh-huh.
and now you're in the gang's base where you need to get your prototype accelerator for your swoop.
Yeah, so you sneak into the base, you get the prototype accelerator. You can
A lot
do
of other stuff.
a
There's
couple
there's
other side quests if you feel like it.
you can free a waitress, and you run into a gang member who's like, "Don't kill me. I'm a member of the old gang before they became super shitty. Just let me go if you want."
Yeah, so then you can let him go, etc. Oh,
I also
I know
died
that.
here. I forgot. Second time I died. That goddamn security panel. Do not overload the frickin' security
So
panels.
there's something that we didn't really go over, and the game has hacking. You can hack into a system using computer spikes.
Which is annoying because it's basically just currency based.
Yeah, it's based on your stat and the
There's no
amount.
mini game or anything like that. It's just
I
like,
know it's
hey,
beautiful. It's so good.
you need computer spikes, and every action you want to do, you want to open the doors, computer spikes. You want to disable the droids, computer spikes, and if you don't have enough computer spikes, you just can't do that thing.
Yeah, I know it's great. It's wonderful.
Hey,
It makes use of your stats and your resources, and that's it. You don't have to do a
I want a
stupid
mini
mini
game.
game.
I
You
want a
don't.
mini game where I'm rotating wires
No,
or something.
no, this is great. This is how it should be done. And you have the computer spikes because you're good at video games and have a constant supply of them because you're buying them because you know you need them.
I didn't
And
buy anything.
hmm and then you use those computer spikes to do things like open doors, put gas in a chamber, overload the console. Don't do that; you'll die.
Yeah, it just explodes and kills your entire party.
Unless you're smart about it and you run in the middle of a fight and you have mission stealth and run away and you do that at the console and blow everything in the room except mission up and then you win because you have to do a lot of weird stuff at level 2, and that's one of the things that I did.
Well, that sounds cool. That is smart.
Thank you.
So yeah, you go through here and you do that. There's a lot of fights. It's a dungeon.
Yeah, and then you go do
You
the.
ultimately get your little prototype swoop bike part.
But I did want to just touch on that one more because it's something that KotOR does that I love, and it gives you a lot of options. You can use the computer spikes to hack things. You can fight your way through. You can find computer cards by finding the right NPC and either talking to them or fighting them. You can hack droids to get them to go fight things.
If you
They're
have computer spikes.
Yeah, if you're using the rogue style and have those resources, or you can just fight through, it gives you a lot of options. You can bust doors down, or you can pick them. You can do all kinds of things, and that's part of why I love these old style RPGs because while there's friction and there's a lot that fucks with you, it gives you a lot more options than modern stuff, which is typically do 1 to 2 things while acting like it gives you options to do. And I love the freedom it gives you, even though it seems limited. There's still a lot of options that you can do to get to the end, and that's part of what I love about it. So we go through, we get the part, we do the swoop race.
No, don't you even just gloss over this awful thing.
What?
So so you bring the part back and they're like, "Hey, we'll install the part. Just stay at the gang thing overnight. We'll start the swoop race in the
Yeah,
morning." So you get there and the mechanic's like, "Cool, I installed it. It probably won't explode. You'll get like 4 or 5 uses out of it. I don't know if that's true because I only did the thing like 2 or 3 times.
3 times is how much. If you win every time, is how much you do it.
So it isn't like a race like you're racing other people. It's a heat like you're racing yourself and you're just trying to get the best time. And it's a mini game from a PC game of that era. Like it is really rough. You start in your little thing and yeah, hit the one button to accelerate, right? And you got a little meter, and when it fills up, you hit that button again to switch gears. And there are little acceleration pads on the track you can hit that make you go faster. And if you hit debris, it slows you down. And you just it's a little what like 30-second race. I think my best time was like 23 seconds.
Yeah, I think my best was 22 or 23 around where you're at. But hot take, I like the swoop race.
I
I thought it was fun.
does it come up again?
No, you're safe. You're totally
Well,
safe.
no, I was gonna say maybe if they did some more with it, I might like it. But if that's the only time, I both love and hate when RPGs will have like a mini game mechanic or something that shows up one time. Because if it's something that's kind of cool, you're like, well, that was underutilized. But meanwhile, I can apparently play all the Pizzac I want.
Hell yeah, Pazak.
But yeah, so you win the race, and of course, it's not going to be because you're racing. I think I mentioned it earlier to win Bastila because they put her up as a prize because that's how Star Wars works.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly, because she's going to become a slave. So you win. Yay. He's obviously, the leader of the Black Vex is obviously going to give you your
although he has
prize,
a
right?
point. He has a point. He was like, "Nah, this is bullshit. You cheated because you used the prototype accelerator." I mean, the the administrator of the race is like, "No, it doesn't work that way." But he does have a point. I'm just saying, you can't just throw in a fancy part.
But you can, though, if there's not rules against it.
You're one of those people.
Yes,
It's not in the rule book.
exactly.
So yeah, douchebag's like, I'm taking her back. I'm not giving her as a prize.
So then you
And
murder them.
yeah, the race guy's like, no, you can't pull her back, and so that starts a fight. Except she pretty immediately just gets out of her own little cage and picks up like a double sided sword and fights with you. And yeah, you kill the guy, or he kills you, I assume, and then you reload your save and kill him.
No, I threw grenades.
I was leveling up, so I actually just killed him with a vibro sword.
Listen, we're about to switch roles the moment we get to Dantooine, okay?
Oh, I know. I
Um,
decided I would play this. I was thinking about doing what you did. I looked at a guide online, but then I was like, nah, since this is my first time playing this, I'm just going to play it like I would play it
yeah, just have fun with it.
outside help. Yeah. So just like, I'm just going to level the way, because I wouldn't have known that it's going to punish me for leveling. So yeah, Bastel gets out, you kill the guy. And then I'm going to be honest, Bastel is kind of a jerk.
Well, no, she's a Jedi.
Shut up. Um, but she is 100. No, so Jedi are supposed to be humble. That's one of their things.
They're supposed to be
She
humble while
is,
knowing they're better than everything else because they're a
she is
Jedi.
not. She is just like, you're like, hey, I freed you, and she's like, you didn't free me. I freed myself. I didn't need you. Leave. I don't even like you. And then when you're like, Karth sent me, she's like, oh, Karth. Okay. I mean, if Karth sent you, then maybe you're not a piece of crap. I'm like, lady.
Well, let's be real here for a second. She was a slave. She got enslaved and kept and just broke out, and then you're like, I'm here to save you. I also probably wouldn't believe it right away. That's be 100% real. That's a realistic response
This is why we have no heroes.
because
Anyway,
heroes don't exist. So
you save her despite what she says. And
yeah,
then yeah, she joins you and you go back to regroup right at your apartment. That's what happens
yeah.
next.
So you regroup. You have for almost all the characters that you need to get off, and then what happens?
Oh, and I don't think we mentioned it, but it's kind of clear from what we said. Yeah, you have a 3-person party in this game.
Yeah, you have 3 folk, and at this point, you can complete the arena. So you got to the arena, you got to the last person. The last person only does death matches.
Oh, we didn't even mention why completing the arena is important. Because we
Yeah,
didn't get to that.
yeah.
In the other cantina, the CD lower cantina, they have a bounty hunters guild, and you can take on some bounty hunts.
Mhm.
If you're a light side person, there's literally only one you can do, which is hunting down an assassin
Yes.
who you will randomly run into in an apartment. The other major assassination you can do is on this guy, who is a former arena champion who only fights to the death, which is illegal on Taurus. They don't fight to the death, but he's like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah. Mhm.
So now back to where you were. Yes, now you can go fight this guy.
Yeah. So now you go, and here's where I got really irritated. Even just
Me too.
accepting the duel gives you dark side points, no
Yeah,
matter what you do. Yeah.
I was annoyed because I'm like, wait, why didn't I get dark side points for killing the assassin? Because this guy also kills people. Like
Yeah.
that's why there's a hit out on him, is because like he refuses to obey the law and he keeps killing people in the arena. And so they're like, hey, no. So I'm like, I get like I should have also gotten dark side points for killing the assassin then.
Yeah, it's not consistent, but you get your dark side points, and then you get in a fight with this guy, and here's where you probably had a way better time.
I didn't fight him because I didn't want the dark side points.
Oh,
So
I
I went to the
absolutely
hut
did.
and was just like, I'm not gonna kill someone for money or for entertainment or something. And I'm just like, this is stupid. It's a consensual fight. Like this dude challenged me to a
Yeah,
duel. A Jedi, like I have watched like all of the Star Wars movies, read
Mhm.
the comics, read many of the books, watched the animated stuff. Many of the Jedi I know would have no issue with like an honor duel or like fighting like an arena or something like this. Like that is this is some bullshit.
So I did the fight. I used 15 grenades, 2 energy shields, and 8 med packs. But I won
You know something that's kind of annoying to me?
having to do that.
This is a flavor thing, but this guy is wearing Mandalorian armor,
Yeah.
but the Mandalorian in your party is not.
Yeah, he explains why.
Oh, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, if you talk to him. But
I guess I'll have.
but so I did that. I collected the bounty. I got lots of money. That was cool. I stole Mission's vibroblade and used it as my own weapon.
What a jerk. I mean, I have her using guns anyway.
Yeah, that's why, because she's using her gun. So because I was level 2 and couldn't level my dual wielding at level 4, it wasn't worth dual wielding. So I just had one really good vibroblade and hope to God it hit. Is pretty much how that worked.
Which hers is upgradable, which
Yep.
we didn't. I mentioned workbenches, but certain items are upgradable, which upgradable means that they have a couple of slots or a few slots that can have certain items added to them to, increase their stats. And uh, you at the beginning you got like a prototype vibroblade that was upgradable,
Mhm.
or at least I did. And missions, all the party members seem to come with like one upgradable item.
Yeah, Mission's vibробlade's a little better than the prototype, I think. So I just sold the prototype and used hers. But I did the arena, you didn't, and then we go off to the last part of Taurus.
We didn't even mention that when you go to leave your apartment after regrouping, the man or somebody shows up and they're like, "Hey, the Mandalorian wants to talk to you."
Right. Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
So okay, so yeah, so now you're going to meet him in the lower cantina,
Yep.
or no, the upper cantina,
No, it's the lower.
one of the cantinas.
It's the lower cantina. So you go to the lower cantina and you're like, yo, bro, what's up? And he's like, I went off this planet. And I think that we can
Yeah, he's
do
like,
this
my boss
together.
is screwing me over for money,
Yeah.
and my boss has the fastest ship in the galaxy, the Ebon Hawk, which is this era's Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the fastest ship in the galaxy always a freighter? That doesn't make any damn sense.
We're not applying logic here. We're just moving on. So then you go ahead,
That'd be like the fastest ship in the ocean's an oil tanker.
right? And then
Like, doesn't make any damn sense. But no.
and then he's like, you need to go to the Sith base and get these codes to make it so the anti-air shit doesn't shoot us. And you're like, okay. And then
Which this Sith base has been around previously, but you couldn't get through the door.
right, and how you get through the door is you go to the droid shop, and he's like, hey, tell her I sent you. And you tell her, and she's like, okay. It's this
Pissed me off.
ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, tell her I sent you, and she'll give you the droid. Cool. Yeah, okay, that'll be 2,000 credits. I'm like, you didn't mention that, Mando. You did not mention that.
So
I assumed y'all paid for this already, you jackass.
I talked her down to 1,000, I think.
Yeah, same.
But if we were dark side, like God intended, we would have just been
Could
able
have
to
just told her, I will shut your store down if you don't give me
yeah,
this droid.
we could have just threatened her and gotten the droid. So
But now you have your R2D2 of KotOR.
right now it's what HK-47 is the one that everybody likes memes about that we haven't run into. This one is
The assassin droid, yeah.
this one is called, oh god, what's its designation? T3M4. So it's T3M4. He's your little buddy. They they can pick a specific type of lock which only happens once in the game, which is the Sith base. So you open the lock.
Which the droid in this, which there, like you said, there's another droid later on, party member 2. They function a little bit different. They use completely different equipment, or at least he does, than your other party members, and they are healed with repair kits instead of med packs. So it's like a weird divide in your inventory.
Yeah, and if you collect a bunch of repair packs and then you can switch to the droid, it only uses that compared to the rest of your party member using healing packs, so it's actually pretty cost effective to have one droid member. So then you're only using healing packs on 2 people instead of 3.
That makes sense.
But you go through, you get the codes, and
You
then
can, I did have some trouble in here.
Mm.
The there's like basically 2 boss, like each room in here felt like it had a handful of people.
Yeah, so here's the deal though. You got the win button now though. And the win button's Bastille.
I was not
She
using her.
Oh my goodness.
She was a
Brian.
jerk.
She she's a
I don't need
Jedi.
her. I don't need her. Anyway,
She's got a party wide damage buff.
I rolled in here with Mission and the droid.
Oh, that's why you had trouble, you
Yeah,
moron.
it was tough. But and then there's a couple of interesting things in here. One is that there's the guy who hid the corpses for you earlier. Turns out he wasn't so good at that, and he got arrested, and he's in a cell with a puzzle on the wall. I guess it's a puzzle. I just kept clicking until it worked. A
It was
puzzle,
a puzzle.
a puzzle on the wall that if you get all these lights to turn green, right, it lets him out. If they all turn red, he dies. Luckily, I clicked it until it worked, and he didn't die. And then the other one is there's a sub boss, I guess I would call it. There's a big assault droid you run into in an elevator, and there's a way you can kind of get around fighting him, I guess, involving like the power conduit in the elevator. But I didn't do that.
I didn't either. I just used Bastille. She just took care of business.
Okay, well I fought him and he killed 2 of my party members, but the last one killed him. And then you go upstairs and you get to fight your first sort of real Sith, kind of. He's like a Sith apprentice.
Yeah, he's a Dark Jedi, so you fight him.
He is not a Dark Jedi. He has no lightsaber, man. He's just a Sith apprentice. He's a punk. Anyway, he's the Sith governor, is what he's called, I think.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of a Jedi Padawan. I
No lightsaber, man. Anyway, you beat him. You get your codes. You get some good loot. Not all the loot I wanted. I wanted his sword and his armor, but that's not how this game works. And then now you got your codes, so it's time to go back to your Mandalorian buddy, and then go back to get off the planet to the final area of the game.
yes. Well,
Did I break you or something? What?
no, it's fine. It's fine. So you you go you, you go to Davik, you fight.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
You're just frustrating sometimes, Brian. It's just
I mean, yeah, my wife tells me that all the time.
and not to mention Bastille is cool.
It's the Bastille. Hey, okay.
She's
You know what?
interesting.
I'm gonna give her a chance to grow on me later.
Like, you just have to talk
I
to
will
her.
give her a chance, but the thing is, Mission had already charmed me.